know, it's rare to see women composers. It's rare to see living composers in front of an orchestra. It's rare to see, even more rare to see women composers. So I think there's something about, I'm not sure if it's necessarily only imposter syndrome, but there is something about, I think for me, initially wanting to prove myself, like, oh, I'm gonna have, like, I have to excel. I can't be just okay, that I deserve this space, and I don't care about that anymore. It's too exhausting. It's really challenging to be creative all the time, and for my livelihood to depend on me creating and generating music. And again, incredibly grateful that I have work during this time in which a lot of people don't, particularly in the music community. But at the same time, it's really demanding, and I have to take care of myself and find ways to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that's sustainable so that I don't get burnt out. So I'm trying to be better at that, at least in saying it out loud so that others hear it and know that they're not alone in that. When I say it to composer peers, it's so common and we don't ever talk about it. At the same time, it's really special that people want to hear what I have to say with different mediums and instruments. And it's more of me trying to be better at realizing it's really hard. And I like to fool myself and think like, oh yeah, this will take this amount of time, but I don't know what the piece will be. Once the piece starts revealing itself, then it might be a really easy piece to get out. It might be a really arduous and laborious process. There's also something that comes with, your socioeconomic background, where you come from, that, and also how we're conditioned and the mess that we're dealing with in terms of structural inequity in our field too. I think there's a part of me that whenever someone writes to me, even though I should say no, there's a part of me that's like, wait, you've never invited me before. I can't say no. It's complex and layered. The more pieces I write and the more people are commissioning me, the more I have to remember that I also have agency on what I can do. And if someone wants me to write an orchestral piece, that's great. But I've been thinking for a long time about a piece for chorus and orchestra or voice and orchestra. And before, I wouldn't even allow myself to even ask, well, I've been thinking about this, let's talk. And now I'm feeling more, just more comfortable with voicing the ideas that have been in my head and asking, and what could happen? They could say no, but then sometimes they say yes. And then a piece like Arquitecta happens. It's an interesting thing to talk about a piece before starting to write it. And I'm really into process, but I find that once I start putting sounds together, that's when the piece starts revealing itself and it comes to life. And this piece ended up being quite different from what I had imagined originally. I thought it was going to be a kind of like most of the piece very rhythmically aggressive and just more active. And it has moments like that, but I was surprised by how much kind of space there is in the piece in terms of the orchestration. It's like not really charged. I really wanted Lido's voice to shine. And I also wanted to kind of embrace, I don't want to say simplicity, but just maybe transparency as something that could communicate or evoke what I feel when I read Amanda's words.
So when Angelica called me for this, she's like, I want to write a piece for you, and the poem it says all of the things that are in my heart already, because we're Caribbean, and because we understand the longing of home, leaving home or starting a new home in a new place. You carry your house with you wherever you go, right?
So I've known Lido for a long time. I play in a band called Balloon, and Lido and Balloon have been part of the same Latinx indie community for many years. And we were friends on MySpace for a long time, so that's how long back we go. And then we met in person a few years ago and have always talked about collaborating. Then I saw her piece with the New York City Ballet 2 years ago, which was amazing, gorgeous, and as soon as I heard her in front of an orchestra, I was like, you need to be doing this more. Her live shows are incredible, even if oftentimes it's her with percussionists, sometimes it's just solo. Seeing her out of that context, which is where I know her from, in front of an orchestra with her own music and her voice shining through the orchestra, I was just like, I need to write something for her. She needs to be in front of orchestras more. I also want her music to exist in more orchestras too. I think it belongs in those spaces, and that, we need to hear more of that. So I think it's an interesting kind of route to get to the place of a piece like Arquitecta, because I think my background tells me that maybe I should not be writing for orchestra because no one is going to perform it. That's where I come from.
I totally understand that, because so many of the things that make Angélica who she is are the things that I share, and it's my lived experience. So I think that's why she made the piece thinking about me, because she knew that I would feel every single word and every single melody and every single harmony. And it's a big honor. It's just a big honor.
In this case, everything feels really easy, and it just makes for a much deeper experience and meaningful for everyone. I have so many dreams for this piece. My big dream is for it to be performed by the Puerto Rico Symphony, and to bring Lido there, and to have Amanda Hernandez, the poet, there as well, and for it to be heard by a lot of the women that we hear at the end of the piece and reading the poem. So my hope is for it to exist in the place that it was born. And yeah, but we'll see what happens.